That photo of the moon you took last night on your smartphone? It's a lie. Not a small lie. Not a "we boosted the contrast a bit" lie. An actual deliberate fabrication where the craters you're looking at were never captured by your lens. Your camera identified a blurry white blob in the sky, reached into its memory, pulled out a pre-stored texture map of the moon, and painted it on top of what it actually saw. And the wild part? It did all of this silently, invisibly, in under a second. And until very recently, nobody told you. I'm going to show you exactly how it works. The optics, the neural networks, the psychology, and the moment where photography quietly became something else entirely. And I promise after this video, every photo on your phone is going to look a little different to you. Let's start with why this matters. Go to Instagram right now and search Moon iPhone. You'll find thousands of photos that look like they were taken with a professional telescope. Crisp craters, sharp edges, surface texture. Posted by regular people, on regular phones, pointed at the sky from a backyard. It's genuinely impressive, and it feels like a triumph of technology. This little slab of glass in your pocket outperforming cameras that cost 10 times as much. Apple and Samsung have leaned into this hard. Their marketing shifted about 5 years ago. It used to be more megapixels, bigger sensor, wider aperture. Now it's, our AI will make your photos look incredible. Notice the sleight of hand there? They stopped selling you optics. They started selling you an outcome. A beautiful image, however it gets there. And this shift didn't happen overnight. It started small, a little sharpening here, some noise reduction there. Things nobody would argue with. But slowly, quietly, the AI's role in your photo got bigger and bigger. Until today, on a flagship phone, the image you see after pressing the shutter has been processed by dozens of separate AI models before it ever gets saved to your camera roll. And most people never thought to ask, wait, how is it actually getting there? Here's the uncomfortable truth about physics. The moon is roughly 384,000 kilometers away. To actually resolve the craters on its surface with a camera, you need a lens with a very long focal length and a very large aperture. We're talking professional telescope territory. The kind of setup that weighs 20 kilograms and costs thousands of dollars. Your phone's camera lens is, generously, about 5 millimeters wide. There is a hard physical limit, called the diffraction limit, which describes how much detail any lens can resolve based purely on its size. Below a certain threshold, more megapixels literally cannot help you. The light waves themselves spread out and blur together before they ever hit the sensor. Think of it like trying to hear someone whispering from a kilometer away. You can turn up the volume all you want. You can use the best microphone in the world, but the signal was already lost in the air before it reached you. More sensitivity doesn't recover information that was never there. When you point a phone at the moon and zoom in, even at 50x, 100x, what the sensor is actually capturing is a bright, slightly blurry white circle. Maybe you can make out a vague bright spot and a dark edge, but individual craters, texture, that's not in the light. That information was not captured. So there's this precise moment when you're zooming in, when the optical system hits its wall, and something else takes over. The image processor looks at what the sensor gave it, decides it's not good enough, and hands the controls to something far more powerful, the neural engine. That handoff is where things get interesting. So what exactly happens in that handoff? Modern flagship phones, Pixel, iPhone, Samsung Galaxy, all have dedicated AI chips that run machine learning models locally, right on the device. These models were trained on millions of photographs. And buried inside that training data is an enormous library of what the moon is supposed to look like. So here's what actually happens when you take that moon photo. The AI scans the frame. It sees a bright, roughly circular object against a dark sky. It classifies it. That's a moon. And then, and this is the key part, it doesn't try to sharpen what the sensor captured. Instead, it retrieves a high-resolution texture map of the lunar surface from memory and composites it onto the blurry circle in your image. It is, functionally, a search and replace operation. The real blurry data gets partially or entirely overwritten with stored AI-generated detail. Google actually got caught doing this explicitly in 2023. A researcher photographed a picture of the moon on a poster, not the actual moon, a flat printed image, and the Pixel phone still rendered craters onto it. The AI saw a white circle, thought moon, and painted on texture that was impossible to have come from the subject, because the subject was paper. That's not enhancement. That's hallucination. The phone invented craters that were never there, and it looked great. Samsung faced the same criticism around the same time. Users discovered that even heavily blurred and downscaled moon images that contained basically zero real lunar detail, were coming out of the camera looking sharp and textured. The AI wasn't reading the image. It was replacing it. When this came out, people were genuinely unsettled. Not because the photos looked bad, they looked incredible, but because everyone suddenly realized they had no idea what their camera was actually doing. Now you might say, okay, but all photography involves processing. Raw files get sharpened, colors get corrected, noise gets reduced. Where exactly is the line? There's a useful way to think about this. Traditional processing works with the data you captured. You're recovering real information that was in the light, pulling shadow detail out of the sensor's dynamic range, reducing the random noise generated by small pixels. You're not inventing anything. You're revealing. What's happening with the moon is different. The AI is working against the data. It's looking at blurry noise and saying, I know what this should look like, so I'm going to replace what you actually captured with what I know to be true. That's not recovering information. That's substituting it. The test is simple. Photograph a blurry white light, a lamp, a flashlight, a street light, and zoom in. On some phones, you'll actually see the AI try to force a moon texture onto it, because the trigger isn't what it's pointed at. The trigger is the shape and context. Round, bright, dark background, moon. Execute override. The ethical question this raises is real and unresolved. When you share a photo, you're making an implicit claim. I captured this. But if a significant portion of the image was generated from a database rather than from the light that hit your sensor, is that still your photograph? Or is it closer to a composite? An illustration? Photographers have been arguing about this in professional circles for years. News organizations like the Associated Press have strict rules. You cannot add or remove elements from a photograph. By those standards, a phone moon photo would fail immediately. But we don't apply those rules to personal photos. We just assume what we're seeing is roughly real. Samsung quietly dialed back some of its more aggressive moon processing after the backlash. But the underlying capability didn't go away. It just got quieter. And here's why this matters beyond the moon. The moon is a perfect case study because it's so obvious once you know what's happening. It's a single identifiable object, the override is dramatic, and the gap between what the optics can capture and what the AI produces is enormous. But the exact same pipeline is running on every photo you take. Low-light portrait at a restaurant? The AI is reconstructing your friend's face from a model trained on millions of faces. The skin texture you're seeing? Generated. The catch lights in their eyes? Placed there algorithmically. Street photography at night? The AI is deciding pixel by pixel what was a shadow and what was detail, and inventing the difference. This is already affecting how we document real events. Journalists covering protests, disasters, and conflicts are increasingly using smartphones. The photos they take are being processed by the same AI pipelines as everyone else's, which raises a question nobody has fully answered yet. At what point does AI enhancement become a form of alteration that we need to disclose? We are increasingly living inside a feedback loop where our visual memories of real events are being rendered, not recorded. The photo at your sister's wedding, the shot of your kid's first steps, those images passed through a neural network that made thousands of small decisions about what reality looked like. And it made those decisions based on what reality usually looks like, not necessarily what it looked like that day, in that light, in that moment. That's not a reason to throw your phone away. The results are genuinely beautiful, and optical physics isn't going to change. But there's something worth holding on to here. An awareness that the image on your screen is a negotiation between what your lens captured and what a machine decided you'd prefer to see. The engineers who designed the first iPhone keyboard didn't just build a keyboard, they built a system that invisibly compensated for human imprecision. The iPhone moon photo is the same principle, scaled up. A technology that doesn't show you what it sees. It shows you what it thinks you want. Understanding that doesn't make your photos worse. It just makes you honest about what they are. So next time someone shows you a stunning moon photo taken on a phone, you'll know. There's a tiny 5mm lens, a blurry white dot, and somewhere in between, a neural network that decided to fill in the gaps. The photo is beautiful. Whether it's real, that's a question worth sitting with. And here's the thing. This is only going to go further. The AI models are getting better. The overrides are getting more subtle. The line between what the camera saw and what the software decided is going to keep blurring. No pun intended. The question isn't whether our cameras will keep doing this. They will. The question is whether we'll stay aware enough to know the difference. If you want to go deeper on how AI is changing the rest of your phone's camera, computational photography, portrait mode, and the death of optical zoom, that video is right here.